appreciated. We do have quite a few questions still popping into the Q&A, and we have 20 minutes left for a Q&A with all of our presenters. So if you have not had your question answered yet, please feel free to put it in the Q&A. We want everyone to go home with all their questions answered today, or we can certainly follow up if you have more in-depth questions that you want to talk through. We can certainly follow up. You can email any one of us. Okay, so I'm just going to go down the Q&A box as it's listed. I think some of these are maybe best for Chuck or Rebecca, but there are some special ones in there. So first off, if you are doing control in multiple phases, can you report that you accomplished phase 1, for example, removing a particular reproductive stage versus phase 2, removing the whole plant? And so can you report your control in multiple phases?
So yes, I mean, that's where you could do revisits over time and just in the comments field be able to say, hey, this time I did this, and then when I came back the next year I was able to do this, and then ultimately hopefully it's going to be eradicated one day, and then you would change the status from treated to eradicated.
Great, thank you. And I think along the same lines, if you enter your points and then you go back later to treat the points, but those points weren't verified and reviewed to begin with, what's the process to get it reviewed and verified so that you can enter your treatment?
Yeah, so that is an important point, especially through the website, and Rebecca, please chime in on this as well. But yes, the records do need to ultimately be public for you to do revisits on them. And if you're struggling to get records verified, then that may be something where you just need to reach out to us and we can check in with the verifier and make sure if there's a reason why they've not been verified yet for something. So that it's hard to know with the specific circumstances why something would not be verified, because we do depend on our partners not doing it ourselves. If it's Washington, just blame Justin since he's still on, but yeah, otherwise.
Great, thank you. Is there a way to merge redundant reports at the same locations?
So yes, and that was part of what Jerry was talking about with his presentation, that we did that in Utah because of the history of the data being collected with Garmin's, where it was the same point, but they were not the exact same coordinates. And so we have talked about doing that system-wide, talked about doing that in certain areas. So especially if you've got a particular area where it's a big problem and you've got annual data that's been entered and stacked on top of each other, then reach out to us and we'll look at some options to solve that problem for you.
All right, great. To report exotics in general, should we be using the I've Got One app or the EDDMapS Pro app, or does it matter?
So the I've Got One app is really focused on Florida right now. So not knowing where you're from, if you're in Florida, then that may be the best one for you to use, because it's going to definitely have all the species in Florida. The EDDMapS app is kind of the national app that it tailors the species based on what you're really interested in, or what the state is interested in, sorry. And in moving forward, those are going to be the apps that we're going to really focus on. Ultimately, we're going to retire some of these state-specific or regionally specific apps and continue to add more features to either the EDDMapS app, or I've Got One's going to stay around, and EDDMapS Pro. And so it's real. If you're collecting a lot of data, then EDDMapS Pro is the best and quickest way to do that. If you need the field guide, then that's where the EDDMapS app, or I've Got One, or the Washington Invasives app, again, depending on where you're at, will be a better solution than using the EDDMapS Pro app, because there's no pictures, no information about the species in it.
Okay, that's all the questions I have from the chat and the Q&A box. So we'll give just a couple more minutes if anybody out there has any more questions to ask this amazing team of panelists. I did put a couple of links in the chat and I will repost them. The link to the EDDMapS training page, which is really outstanding. You can get a lot of your questions answered by going to the training page and watching some of those videos there and looking at the resources there. I reference it often and I encourage you to as well. I also put the link for our annual conference in there, which is co-hosted by the Florida Invasive Species Council, as Chuck mentioned. So we really hope to see you all live and in person in Florida in November. And then finally, I threw a link up there to the events calendar on NASEMA.org because we have events happening every month and there's lots of places to get engaged and we hope to see you all there. So, all right, any more questions? Last chance. Oops, we got one. Can you capture and share the Q&A with us to review later? Such great stuff. Absolutely. When we post the video, it will have the Q&A available. I will also share the Q&A and the chat log with all of our presenters today so that they can follow up with any questions that we may have missed in the chat.
I just want to say, Beth, I did get your email and we've been working on this, so I will get with you about the data exchange.
Awesome. All right, well, if there's no more questions, I know there were a couple of folks that we'll follow up with via email and make sure that we get back to you that way. Mark, I see your hand is up and I can't allow, the way Zoom is, I can't open it up for you to talk. So if you have a question, put it in the Q&A box or please email one of us and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you and help get all your questions answered as well. I can't unmute my attendees. Okay, last chance, final call. Okay, well, thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful day, rest of your day. We appreciate you being here and we hope to see you at our next event. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.